After the call, I sat on the edge of Julia's desk, heart heavy. "This is the stage I've wanted my whole life," I whispered. "But not if I have to erase myself to stand on it." Julia nodded slowly. "Let me show you something," she said. She pulled out a dusty folder and handed it to me. Inside were faded newspaper clippings from 12 years ago. "Professor resigns from conservatory amid controversy over gender identity." It was her. As Julia. The first time. "I accepted their terms once," she said. "Tried to be both myself and what they wanted. And I lost everything." She placed a hand over mine. "You don't have to choose between being great and being you. If a place makes you shrink to fit in, maybe it's not big enough for your greatness." I took a few days to think. To cry. To scream into pillows. And then, I wrote a letter. Not to accept or decline, but to answer with my own voice. The letter went viral. To the Wellington Academy. "Thank you for your offer. I'm honored you see potential in me. But my talent is not separate from my truth. My voice comes from Elise, not Elliot. Asking me to return to someone I'm not, even for the sake of opportunity, is asking me to trade authenticity for approval. I won't do that. If your institution cannot accommodate a performer without asking them to hide who they are, then perhaps it is not yet ready for the future of music. With respect, Elise Carter." 3 days later, the letter was published by the New York Times. Julia's phone rang nonstop. So did mine. Offers came in, new ones. From academies, record labels, LGBTQ+ foundations. But the one that made me cry? A handwritten letter from a retired opera singer in Italy. "I once had to hide. You reminded me that truth can be more powerful than any aria. Brava, Elise. Never stopped singing. And still, I kept going to school. Still ate cereal in my pajamas. Still got nervous before math tests. But now I did it as Elise, fully, proudly, and without apology." By the time summer break rolled around, I was no longer just Elise Carter, the girl from Boise with a song in her throat. I was Elise Carter, the headliner for an upcoming benefit concert called Raise Your Voice, a night for youth expression, hosted at the Boise Civic Auditorium. Proceeds would support a new national scholarship fund for trans and gender-diverse teens in the arts. It was all happening fast. Too fast, maybe? But for the first time in my life, I didn't want to hide. I wanted to build something, not just for me, but for every kid who'd ever whispered their truth into a pillow. Julia, ever the quiet architect behind my confidence, was now co-directing the benefit concert. She refused to take credit, of course, even when reporters asked. "She's the voice," she always said. "I'm just the scaffolding." Still, I noticed she was distracted. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. She often disappeared into the office late at night. I'd catch her staring into space when she thought no one was looking, and the worst part? She wasn't singing anymore. Not at home. Not in the car. Not even humming. The voice that once gave me courage had gone silent. One day after rehearsal, I asked her, "What's going on?" She hesitated. Then said, "Do you remember the conservatory I told you about? The one that let me go?" I nodded. "They didn't just fire me. They humiliated me. Publicly. Said I'd misrepresented myself to students and parents. They hinted at things. Things I never did." Her hands trembled slightly. "I never told anyone back then. I was too scared. I thought if I just disappeared, they'd forget me." I reached for her hand. They didn't. And now, they're watching you shine again. That's why they're scared. Julia gave me a faint smile. But her eyes were glassy. "I just don't want you to end up like I did, brilliant, silenced, and alone." I squeezed her hand. "You're not alone. And neither am I." 3 days before the concert, a letter arrived at my doorstep. Not an email. An envelope. Heavy parchment. A wax seal with the crest of I Froze, Crestwood Conservatory of Music. Inside was a note. "Dear Ms. Carter, we are watching your progress with admiration. Your authenticity and skill are commendable. We regret the past actions taken against your mentor, Julia Gray, formerly Julian Gray, and extend an invitation for you to audition for our fall program, with one condition. Julia Gray must not be part of your management or educational support team. Her public involvement, while respected, creates reputational complications for our donor network. We hope you understand. The stage is yours if you are willing to accept it alone. Sincerely, Dean Linford Hall, Crestwood Conservatory of Music. My hand shook. The same institution that destroyed Julia's career, now offering me a place. If I left her behind. It was the biggest offer yet. And a test. I didn't tell her about the letter right away. Instead, I poured my panic into rehearsals. I sang until my throat burned. I rewrote lyrics at midnight. I whispered questions to the ceiling. Would she want me to go? Would it mean more if I stayed? Was I being selfish or just scared? And then, the night before the concert, I broke down. We were backstage in the Civic Auditorium, surrounded by stage lights, curtain cables, and half-packed makeup kits. I handed her the letter. She read it in silence, then folded it, her expression unreadable. You should go, she said softly. Crestwood is prestigious. It could be everything. But it's not everything with you, I said. They want my voice, but only if I cut out the person who taught me to use it. Her face flickered pride, pain, and something close to guilt. Elise, she said, my shadow shouldn't hang over your light. I shook my head. Julia, you're not my shadow. You're the reason I'm standing. The night of the concert arrived. The Civic Auditorium was packed, over 1,200 people, from local fans to out-of-town guests. Cameras rolled for a live-stream broadcast. News crews filmed from the aisles. The final number was a duet. A song called Ghost Note, one I wrote for us. About two voices, one hidden, one heard, finding harmony through their scars. When Julia walked out to join me, the audience went still. She wore a floor-length navy dress, silver jewelry, and a courage I hadn't seen in years. We sang together, voices blending like wind and water, sharp and soft. The crowd wept. When the final note hung in the air, Julia turned to the audience, took a breath, and spoke. My name is Julia Gray. Years ago, I was told my voice was a problem, that it confused people, that it disrupted tradition. So I stopped singing. I stopped teaching. I stopped being. She looked at me, her voice shaking. But this young woman, Elise, gave me back my song. The audience rose to their feet. Applause thundered. But not just for the music. For truth. For defiance. For freedom. After the show, my phone buzzed with a message. From Dean Linford. We rescind our condition. Julia Gray is welcome to accompany you to Crestwood. If she's willing. But Julia smiled and said no. Let's build something better, something that never needs an apology. And I knew what we had to do. After the concert, the world opened up. Interviews. Scholarships. Collaborations. Headlines like, Elise Carter and Julia Gray bring down the house with truth and harmony. From silence to spotlight, the duo redefining youth performance. But instead of accepting every invitation or chasing fame, we did something unexpected. We said no. We said home. Together, we used the concert's earnings, over $180,000 in donations and matching grants, to found the Resonance Project, an arts foundation that offered music scholarships, vocal therapy, and safe expression spaces for queer, trans, and questioning youth across Idaho. Our mission was simple. Let every voice echo as it is, not as others expect it to be. The project launched from the backroom of Blanchard Middle School. We installed bean bags, shelves of lyric journals, a hand-me-down keyboard, and mood lighting donated by an old stage crew director. We held our first workshop a week later. 16 showed up. The next week? 18. Within a month, we had to move to the library's multipurpose room. Word spread quickly. Not just through Boise, but all across the Pacific Northwest. High schoolers drove 3 hours just to sit in on a Saturday songwriting circle. Parents wrote in, thanking us for giving their children a place to breathe. Even educators began reaching out. Can you bring resonance to our school? Would you consider publishing your program model? We'd like to nominate you both for the Pacific Arts Education Grant. But not everyone was cheering. We got our first anonymous email 2 weeks into the program. You're poisoning children's minds with this gender confusion crap. Then a handwritten letter. Not everyone wants this shoved down their throat. Enjoy it while it lasts. At first, we brushed it off. Julia had seen worse. But then came a formal petition, signed by over 300 community members, to remove our program from Blanchard school grounds. The petition claimed we were indoctrinating children. We were disrupting school neutrality. And worst of all, Elise Carter is not a stable role model for minors. It stung. But what hurt most? Someone on our team leaked the complaint list. It had names. One of them was Ms. Darnell, the school's part-time counselor. Someone who had attended 3 of our workshops. Who had smiled, clapped, and complimented my lyrics. I found out during rehearsal. Julia read the list first, her mouth tightening. She didn't say a word, just handed me the printed sheet. And there it was. Line 12. Valerie Darnell. I felt sick. I confronted her in the staff parking lot the next day. I trusted you, I said. You said you believed in what we were doing. Ms. Darnell didn't look angry. Just tired. Defensive. I do believe in some of it, she said. But parents are worried. And you're... What? I snapped. Too loud? Too honest? Too visible? She lowered her gaze. You're young, Elise. And people aren't ready. I stepped back, heart pounding. Maybe they'll never be ready. That doesn't mean we stop singing. The school board called a vote. It was the same room where Julia had once been reinstated, but now the walls felt colder. Familiar faces avoided eye contact. One by one, parents stood up to speak. Some defended us with passion. Others demanded our program's removal. And then, Lucas stood up. In a dress shirt and mismatched tie, voice trembling. My name is Lucas Ortega. I've known Elise since we were 8. Before she ever said her name out loud. Before she ever sang on a stage. He looked directly at the board. I saw her when she was silent. And I see her now, and she's never been more real. You don't have to understand us to let us exist. Just don't take away the one place where we feel safe. The room went still. Then Clara stood up, one of our first resonance students. I was going to quit choir, she said. I didn't know how to be both gay and musical. Elise and Ms. Gray showed me I didn't have to pick. They gave me my first solo. The votes were cast. 4-3 again. But this time, the result was against us. The Resonance Project was banned from campus. Effective immediately. We packed up our posters, guitars, binders. Teens cried. Some were angry. Others just stood still. Julia put a hand on my back as we loaded everything into her car. I'm sorry, I whispered. I didn't want to cause this. She looked at me fierce and unwavering. You didn't cause anything, she said. You revealed it. 2 days later, a miracle arrived. Mayor Delaney of Boise offered us a deal. A city-owned historic building, recently decommissioned from use, was being repurposed for youth outreach. Would the Resonance Project like to be its anchor tenant? Rent-free. City endorsed. I cried in the parking lot when we signed the lease. It was real. We weren't silenced. We were just getting louder.